Hello, hello. Welcome to the League and Order podcast. Mark's taking a seat today. I'm Blake Ayshford, running the show. So
unbelievable. That was take two too. Just that you so that you know.
That was good.
Word for word, he done it. He got it. He got it. He's been practicing all morning.
Oh, and I'm going to keep going with the word for word. You're usually immaculately dressed, but today
Use simpler words. Use simpler words, Blake. Immaculately.
Yeah, no, I got the beers on, mate. Got the Waitara Beers. We had our open day this weekend. We had 1,500 people running around in our small town, with every kid who plays junior football down in Taranaki getting a nice little sport pack from Sky Sports, which is phenomenal for rugby league people. So a little football, a mouth guard, a heap of posters from our Kiwi boys, and a little backpack that they can carry their lunches to school in. So I thought I'd promote grassroots football today, put my beers top back on.
Beauty, that's what we love. And Lavina, at home, nice and warm.
Showing off the art.
Warm in Tauranga, and I was just thinking, I'm really glad that my Sky Sport fees go towards such a good cause, because believe me, I'm paying enough money to Sky. I'm one of those Sky Sport presenters that don't get anything for free, so I still paid top notch for my membership. So if it means it goes towards grassroots rugby league, that's a good thing, Kempy. It's a bloody good thing.
I agree, totally, 100%.
Well, let's start off where we always do, the Warriors. Can you get your thoughts on the game?
Oh, no one wants to start.
I don't mind starting on the Warriors first up. Even though it was a close game and they took on the Roosters, and I remember texting Kempy going, we're looking good, we look strong. I just don't know how many facets throughout the game I thought to myself that they were going to win. And I've told people before, the Warriors play well when you don't expect them to play well, and then they play poorly when they're against opposition they should beat. So I thought they did well to hold the Roosters to a couple of points, and they showed good attacking flair at the start of the game. I'm not sure throughout the match I actually thought they were going to win. I was hoping they would win. But they weren't showing me too much to think that they were going to win. But it was an improved performance from a side that were depleted with the news of players leaving and having replacement players, and still no coach, still playing overseas. The Warriors could have easily gone in and chucked in the towel and said, this is the best team in the competition and they're going to beat us by 30 points. And they didn't show signs of that. So I loved the spirit from the Warriors. Defensively, I thought they were really strong. It was one of their best defensive games throughout the year, which really impressed me. But they're still going to have to take it up a notch if they want to finish in that top 8 at the end of the year.
Yeah, didn't Hetherington have a go too? The young kid that came in and give it to Jared.
Had a go.
Oh, look, I love Jared. I've had lots to do with him in the Kiwi team, and just watched him throughout his career. But young Hetherington here, and Peyton said that, and Braithen has to come out saying, look, the kid's pretty tough. Had him in the under-20s, and I thought he showed that on the weekend. I woke up this morning and I thought, what are we going to talk about this morning about the Warriors so it doesn't sound the same? Where is that effort every week? That's the only disappointing part about it, is that you're watching the game, they're going to halftime with a lead, and you think, come on boys, hold on here, and you can really build on the back of it. But then I wake up this morning and I go, but where's their effort going to be this week? No one knows. If you're marking it out of 1 to 10, that was probably 8.5, 9, wasn't it? But the week before, what, you give them a 4? You know what I mean? When we get an 8.5, 9 week in, week out like the Roosters are, the Roosters showed their class. They got them in the end. We always knew that they weren't going to give in, and they had the capability on their side with Tedesco and Keary that could win them the game. And who pops up at the back end of the game? Keary puts that kick through, scores it.
Keary.
Manu gets out a dummy half. They hand back on the try line, and I think Jared picks up the last try. So it's I think an effort, a big effort from the Warriors to hang in for that long. But mate, we need that every week.
But where does that come from?
Yeah, where does that consistency come from? That's you've coached before.
That's the $1 million question, and I know I'm going to get asked that question. With bringing that up, I know I'm going to get asked that question. That's the $1 million question. You've got to build. I think what you do is you have in the NRL, you have teams that are capable of putting those one games. Look at the Bulldogs against Newcastle. Look at the Titans against whoever they're playing when they get that one-off win. But if you look at Penrith, Parramatta, Sydney City this year, you build consistency on the back of winning week in, week out football. But if you're winning, losing, winning, losing, I think that basically tells you where you are in the comp.
A lot of that comes down to the player itself. It's the coach can do so much, but the player yourself has to be preparing right, eating right, training right, just doing everything you can so that when it comes kickoff, you're ready to go. You're not tired after a bit. Like, you're mentally You're there for that game. And at the moment, we just don't have a lot of players that are all buying into that one thing. Like I said, there's teams that can win games with one player, as we've seen with David Fafita with the Broncos, things like that. For us to win games, we need everyone on board.
Well, okay, Blake, I mean, you were playing last season. There is a player there who prepares himself ridiculously well, right? And Roger Tuivasa-Sheck.
Yep.
Why is it then that the other players haven't seen what he's done, bought into it and gone, we need to be exactly like him? To the extent where he bought his own boots, I believe, because the boots that he was wearing weren't working for him and he wanted to go back to the days where he was wearing a certain type of boot. Like, he is so meticulous when it comes to his preparation. Why have the other players not gone, we've got to be exactly like Roger and we'll all buy into it?
And I can't answer that because...
Did you? When you were playing with him?
No, I wasn't. You obviously see my body. No. I was
You showed signs of it.
Yeah.
You worked hard.
Yeah, well, things that worked for me wasn't necessarily being that, but I could have been probably better if I was professional as Roger. But each of their own. It's everybody's own mentality. Like, I can't say why this person isn't doing it because there might be a reason why he doesn't do this. But each their own. They need their own mentality switch so that when they see Roger doing it, they're going to do it.
Because that's a top 8 side that we saw playing against the Roosters in the weekend, right?
Yep.
That side that plays like that with that attitude, and that those players, believe it or not, those players, but everyone's like, oh, we don't have the cattle. Those players, that's a top 8 side.
Yeah, but also if you took Luke Keary out of the Roosters and he played for the Warriors at the weekend, the result would have been reversed. It did come down to that one player in the end, I do believe. And Tedesco might be another one, but Kerry won the match for them, and it was Luke that, was the deciding factor. And, our halves were making a couple of mistakes, and there's still a lack of consistency there as to whether or not they'll be in the same jerseys next week. There was one player that made a difference between, a couple of points in the competition from a side that should be top and bottom of the ladder. So the Warriors have the goods. They've got the support network, I guess. They've got a disruptive season, but they've got to put it behind them. And, they're going to be playing over in Australia. They missed their whano, and it sucks, and players are coming home, and they don't know who their coach is. But you've still got the player base there to impress yourselves as players and also us as fans to say we're good in this competition.
And that's where we're going.
Whoa.
Yep. Hey, I'll tell you what, I'm going to just touch on a couple of things. Cody Nikorima, that shot where Manu got out of dummy half there and ran 10 metres to score that try.
Yeah.
That's called a decisive effort for your team to get out of dummy half and tackle them around the legs and stop them putting those big middle blokes under pressure in the middle. And I think that Cody's he's a fair weather footballer. If things are going well, he plays really well. But if things aren't up to how he wants to play, then he becomes a liability. And just touching on this, how do you get players to have that attitude to win? This is, you're looking at a top 8 side. I'm going to just go back in when I was playing. There are so many different players with different attributes across the team. There is Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who is super fit. All right, he trains the house down. You look at his family. His father was exactly the same. He prepares meticulously. Then there are other blokes, mate, that like Kentucky Fried Chicken, that go and train and don't train as hard, and then get to the game and then try and put the same effort in.
Where did you fit, Tony?
So I was sort of between that. Like, I didn't mind a bit of Kentucky Fried Chicken, but I didn't. I trained as well, type thing. So, but my point being, between that Kentucky Fried Chicken and the Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, that's where the 17 blokes sit. So to say that can you get them all focusing on the one thing really comes down to the mentality of your coaching and your managing structure. Because if you can get them to buy into a winning culture, you can get them all playing and winning consistently. And that's how when you say, I've got a team of champions or champion team, we've got a team, but we haven't got either.
They all want to win though, right?
Sydney City got a team of champions. Yeah. They're just trying to sign Sonny Bill Williams. They want to win.
They want to win, but just quickly, going back to what Tony said, I can't get this out of my mind at the moment, talking about Cody Nikorima on a fair weather football, and obviously you're not talking about the sunshine, but if it's going good for you, you play well, and if it's not going good for you, you don't play well. Someone like Trent Robinson doesn't put up with that shit, eh? That's not good enough. You put in the same effort every week, like you're playing in a grand final or a state of origin game every week, to earn the money that we've paid you to come and be a professional for our club. It can't be willy-nilly. If it's all going your way and we start with some points and it's going great, you're going to have a great game. That's not going to be a champion team at the end of the year. You have to play like it's a final every single time. You have to play like you're being selected next door to Tuivasa-Sheck. because he's the best in the game. That's what the Warriors need every week. And I don't know if it's a coach that needs to install that. Surely that comes from your upbringing and from being, getting in, playing the greatest game of all as a professional.
It certainly helps when you can manage your roster and you haven't, they got some injuries, haven't they? Sydney City, but look at the depth and the calibre of player that they bring in to fill those roles. And the signings and he's got help. He's got a really good recruitment structure. They signed the Morris brothers. They go and sign Sonny Bill. The discussion this morning about Carey taking probably a $300,000 hit on his contract to being the number one half in the country in the game at the moment, so that other players can be kept on the books. They've got a structure that works. We can blame the salary cap and that Politis is manipulating it and so on and so on. But what he's got a structure that works.
Well, speaking about the Warriors and mentality, where's their mental state now when 4 of their players have come home?
Oh, so we spoke about. I actually didn't think they were there for this game against Sydney City. I thought they left the week before was their last game. But mate, it doesn't get any tougher. You know what I mean? I think the 2 boys that they've signed out of Parramatta are really good. I think
that's good.
I think they're really good players. But to come into a side knowing that your teammates. You're talking, Mark, you just said about that. You said, they play to win games, win grand finals. Lavina just said that. Well, what's that say when 4 of your guys go home to your teammates? And yes, they may have their wives over there, but, we're, 8 weeks out from the finals? It's like, why couldn't you sacrifice another 8 weeks? I get it with Fuss's wife being pregnant. That's fine, but why couldn't you sacrifice another 8 weeks? That's you're in it. Why don't you stay in it for the duration?
I get this is such a divisive conversation, and it turned into a heated argument at a dinner party which I attended on Saturday night. And it was one of my Samoan friends was telling me how it's very different to say how I was brought up, that family is everything and money doesn't matter at a certain point. That they're going to leave and they're going to go back to their family. And I said, my argument was, and coming completely from my own personal experiences, my argument was, it doesn't get any easier for them back here. There's a real high unemployment level. They've kind of got to be there to be earning money for their family. Like, has anyone explained to them what happens when they get back here and how do they start providing for their family whilst that is...
Well, I still think they're getting paid. So I think they're coming back and they're training, from what I understand, 4 days a week. Some will be at Ruben Wickie's gym, so they'll be getting touched up. They'll be doing a lot of promotion work for the Warriors.
Okay, so then that blows my argument out of the water. Either way, it still doesn't make for a championship team. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to tell them that they shouldn't be coming home, because who am I to have any say in how they run their lives and what they find important? But what I wanted to point out to my Samoan friend was, man, this is a global pandemic. Work is hard to come by. People don't have the giving attitude when people have work and they leave it to go home to their family. Like, everyone wants to be with their family. No matter what culture you come from, everyone wants to be with their family. At a moment like this just seemed like it's such a letdown for the team, the fans, and everyone else like that. But I'm not going to tell them they can't, and it's all for them. I'm not saying that they should be still playing.
And in answering to Blake's question, whereabouts is their headspace at the moment? Ash, you would know better than anyone because you're so close to the team. But what I hope from the Warriors is that half of them aren't thinking, God, I hope this season ends quick. That's what I'm hoping from the Warriors. And I know losing those 4 players is detrimental. It's like having 4 injuries for the next week. And I know there's no news yet, and there's just gossip around the coaches and what players you want to buy. And it's unsettling. But they're away from home at the moment. And I just hope all of them, like their captain, is saying, let's play our best rugby league we've ever played, and let's make ourselves proud and our fans proud of what we can do. And I'm hoping the whole team is thinking along those lines, not half of them going, I can hardly wait till the season's over. Because if that's the case, then they won't be as close to the Roosters like what they were last weekend.
And that's the thing. They've got to get on with it. The same as everyone back here. Like, it's happened. There's nothing, whatever we can say and speculate, it's done. Exactly. You can't change it. So I'm pretty sure Toddy would have got that message across to the team, and I'm interested to see who he picks, because I think he made a smart move. Now we've got Jazz back, Jazz into the middle, and Hetherington up front. And as you've seen on the weekend, both of them had a crack. And whenever someone does a high shot, whenever someone does a high shot, they're in. And that's what they need. They need a bit of that just to spark them up. A bit of, even if they throw a punch.
But our Kevin Campion, Michael Luck type attitude where you race in and stick up for your teammates. I really like that part of the game. I think that's rugby league stands out like dog's bollocks when that's in the game from any other sport, because it's so confrontational. It is a confrontational sport. Jez and Hetherington running in like that on the weekend.
Haven't you seen basketball? Those guys are real good fighters.
No, soccer. Sure, do you really want me to answer that question? Yeah. But to touch on a couple of the points that you made, like in Super League, they've just had a couple of teams, like Toronto Wolfpack have canned their season. Halifax come out last night in the Champion League and said that they're out for the season. Leaving a team out for the season is the accolade for the Warriors to be playing in the season, to say you guys have done really well to hang on and play in this competition. So, but hats off to them. But if you decide to do it right at the front end, then do it. No, don't half by do it. That's why you're getting the 4s and the 8.5s. And the other thing is, have a look at it give it a real shot. They've got no coach. They've got an assistant coach that's taking a caretaker's role at the moment. They've got a board and a CEO working really hard behind the scenes to get a coach on board. And it's a PR disaster, Lavina, at the moment. I think, with it coming out that Geoff Toovey didn't even receive an opportunity to put his case forward because he doesn't hit the criteria, even though he's taken Manly to a grand final.
What is the criteria? What did he miss out on? And can we just take a moment to think about what exactly were the Warriors? What could they give him a cross against?
Look, I don't care two hoots about that part. The part that I care about for the brand of the Warriors is that they allowed the conversation to hit the public market, such as we're talking to the Walker brothers, but we won't talk to Geoff Toovey. Now that is stupid. Yep. You know what I mean? It's a PR disaster, and they need to tidy that side of it up, because players aren't dumb. So when they're looking at the news, because they all read the news and they can tell you that they don't, they're on social media. I'm telling you now, half of them are watching this show. Yeah. They're on Facebook, they're on Instagram, they're reading all the Courier Mails and the Heralds and so forth. They read that and they take it on board, and it does affect their psyche. You know what I mean? So for this conversation and the Warriors to be in the position that they're at, get on and make some really good decisions. Sign a really good coach. That's the first thing. Get a really good recruitment strategy together. That's the second thing. And start to build for the future, and stop playing around with blaming things on what's happening now week in, week out. Because I'll tell you right now, good on them. I'll take my hats off them for digging in and getting through the season. All right, we give them that. But hey, the reality is, next season you ain't going to get the same. You're not going to get the same leeway. People are wanting you to recruit well, get a good coach, and come out and be a top 8 team.
Talking about coaching, I really love what Toddy Payton said in the weekend. I don't know if anyone's seen it, but it's where we need to be. He didn't praise the boys at all. He said everyone's praising them for a good effort. I'm filthy that we got beat. And that's sort of about the Warriors. Like you think, oh, look, we're sitting here, oh, how good did we go? We got beat by 8 points to the reigning premiers. We don't need to be like that. We should be beating that team. And that's what Toddy Payton come out and said. And I think we need to find a coach that's got that mentality about him, like nothing's good enough. We need to be on top.
He said that about Blairy, didn't he? Yeah, if it wasn't good enough. And I really like that. I thought, put him on notice. And it really raises the question of where Todd Payton is in the mix as far as the coaching thing goes. Because I can guarantee you, Stephen Kearney wouldn't have said that. Stephen Kearney, the last 2 weeks, he wouldn't have said that. He wouldn't have said that about Blairy, and he wouldn't have come out and said, I'm filthy about that effort. It was a rhetoric that rolled off his tongue that became consistent, and the new owners didn't like it. That's what Mark Robinson was alluding to. So, I reckon that Todd Payton, and I've been thinking about it all week, coming back in here and talking about the coach, I think Todd Payton is at the top of the list. I seriously do.
Really?
I do. I think he's at the top of the list. And I think the statements that he is making is because he's been given direction from the club that this is the type of person we want. We want someone that can build an attitude of winning in this club and not to take mediocrity as what we're saying as the norm.
That's a real advantage then for Todd over the coach, right? That he's had the inside running on what type of blueprint they're after in terms of a head coach. You've been coached by him. How did you find him?
As well? He was assistant coach obviously last year, and everyone knows the assistant coaches and head coaches change.
Yeah.
But he's very smart footy brain. Playing alongside him, he was always that front rower who had halfback skills. True. So he knows the game well. His man management is the thing that I haven't yet seen as a head coach, and it does change when you're a head coach and assistant coach. So, it'd be interesting though, and I agree. I don't know if he'd be at the top, but he'd be in the mix with a couple of others 100%. Because all the messages he's giving out is where we want to be. We want to be on top. We want to be happy with a losing performance. But with the signings, we're talking about the coaches, and we touched on slightly SBW. Now Toronto's gone. What do you think about SBW? Like, they've moved on a little kid to make room. I don't know how you find room in basically a team that's called the team of the decade.
Salary cap.
I know.
Jesus.
Yeah, I know. Because Luke Keary's taking a pay cut. Don't worry, Luke will buy you a house. It's okay. No one will know about it. That's the way they're going to roll. If I had a chance to have Sonny Bill Williams for the Warriors, I'd love it. I'd honestly love it. I think it would be amazing. When I found out he was signed for that multi-million-dollar deal over in Toronto, I actually thought to myself, I don't remember the last time he put in a full game of footy and hadn't been injured. And I think his rugby league best days are behind him, not in front of him. But it's not like you're going to say no to someone like that. It was really interesting listening to Trent Robinson last night on NRL 360 and the conversations they're having with Sonny Bill and the reasons why they would like him within the realm. And I thought to myself, the main reason is so he's not playing for anyone else, because it's not like you actually need him in your club. It's not like you short of back rowers, or even if you want to chuck him in the centres, that you need someone like Sonny Bill Williams, but you just probably don't want him playing for anyone else. And if there was an opportunity for him to come to the Warriors, it would be great, but I don't think I'd be pouring out the big bucks. Like, if I had a chance to have David Fifita or Sonny Bill Williams, I'd pour the big bucks out for Fifita, which is a phenomenal signing. I
don't think money plays a part in this decision. I think Code is a really smart guy. I think this $10 million that he signed with Toronto, he would have got a sign on up front, plus a guaranteed in the first year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's taken 50% of that payment in these first 6 months. So the money wasn't a factor in it. I think that they have a deal with Nick Politis in that if he does come back to the NRL, it is for Sydney City, because Nick has looked after him for so many years. And Sonny's the type of bloke that's so loyal. You know what I mean? He doesn't go away from what he says he's going to do. We've seen that. He walked away from Canterbury. He became he followed what he believed religiously, and he's become such an iconic person in the sport that, for me, Sydney City signing him was always going to happen, but I just think it was a really smart move to do it, because they could have left him out there. Sonny Bill would have been quite happy to sit out with the money that he's got. But to sign him and to have him just come walk in the club, forget that he's going to play on the bench or maybe start, but the boys in the club are going to grow another leg.
Yeah. And I've heard he's also, one of the stipulations was after, I think this was before when he won the comp, he might have, like you said, Coda Smart, that he was coming back to coach at some level with the Roosters. So I don't know what level, but I'd say this might even be part of his deal to coach after he's done.
Maybe.
So
who did we spoke to someone on the debrief, and they were talking about how Sonny Bill Williams' preparation is a level above anything.
I think it was Aaron Smith. It might have been.
Aaron Smith spending time around Sonny Bill, and just the professionalism, the amount of hard work he puts in, and just how it lifts the entire team in the locker room. Just imagine that. Imagine Sydney City simply investing in Sonny Bill just to lift and go another gear up.
Yeah. Grow another leg, like what Kempy said.
Yeah. I think the difference between a Fifita signing, we've heard about Fifita signing the $1.2 million and going from Brisbane down to the Titans, and I use that literally. Like, Brisbane have always been the best team in Queensland. They're down the highway to the Gold Coast have always been the party boys. You signed to go to the Gold Coast because you want a good party at the end of your career. Just ask Toddy. There's a nice YouTube clip going around of Toddy at the moment. But the signing, the difference between the signing of two blokes, Fifita and Sonny Bill, are for two totally different reasons. One's to build a club, and one's just to, for Sonny just going back and paying his respects to the guy that I reckon Nick Politis had looked after him, and possibly his coaching career. $1.2 million for a back row, though. Can you 20 years of age? I'm not too sure.
But you touch on their team coming up. So they've just signed Herman Ese, I think, from Newcastle.
Yeah.
They've got the Storm, Big Tino, who has been carving up this year with Melbourne. Now David Fifita and already Whatuaka there. That's a damaging forward pack.
Whatuweka.
Like they will be. I reckon they're on the rise. If they get a half, one half, just to go with Fogarty or Taylor, I think.
Taylor
needs to put his
Taylor needs to hang his boots up.
That was a wasted $1 million for them, wasn't it?
Well, I'd like to see him playing on the front foot, going behind a good forward pack. What they'll have next year. I'd give him another year and see how he goes.
Well, mate, you know, it's really interesting because the three major signings in the last week have all been back rowers. You've got Sonny Bill, you've got who they reckon is for feeders the next Sonny Bill. But I don't know if you guys have had a look at the YouTube clip of this young kid called Sawali that the Australian Rugby Union.
Give me the spelling, I'll find it.
He's not going to the Bunnies now, eh? He's going to rugby.
Well, the rumor was.
Just put it out there.
The rumor was last night that he'd re-signed back with South, so he'd backflipped the backflip and gone back to South Sydney.
Give me the spelling, Kempy. Give it to me.
SUAALLI.
Highlights. Here we go.
I just think
But I think this kid, if you look at the highlights, is better than Sonny Bill at the same age. This kid has just turned 17.
It's just so hard at 17 to give a kid this sort of money. Like, do you remember what Moses Sully, like he's playing great footy at the moment, Moses Sully, but it took him 3 clubs to get to where he's at. And he got paid before.
Right.
You know, he got paid big money before playing a first grade game. What this kid is essentially getting is almost triple what Sully was getting. And people are like, how do you give it to a kid before first grade?
Look at it. Look at the sleight of hand there. Just that little.
But it's against 17-year-olds, 16-year-olds. It's against his own age.
Yeah, and you're right. Look, the Bulldogs took their time with Sonny Bill Williams. Dave Fafita's 20, and he's proven on the international stage. You know, he played Prime Minister's 13 last year. I don't know if he ended up playing on the bench in the Australian Test.
Looks like a young age.
But
well,
what they're doing, what Rugby Union, Rugby League are doing, and this is the other part that I just want to bring into the picture, is now they're changing rules because they're wanting the best person in the comp who they think to be playing. The official age to play in the NRL is 18. They've just asked for dispensation, South Sydney, to play him at 17. Now that opens up a can of worms. You know what I mean? And this is that conversation that you're having about going back to the NRL, about showing some balls and some leadership. Like, stop chopping and changing all the time because people in clubs or managers that who are running these kids are telling you that you need to do this so that you can acquire the best talent. And Blake is dead right. What happens if the kid goes down with a busted knee in his first game?
Yeah.
But this is the thing, right? Like, you've got the money and you're wanting to invest it somewhere, can play. Why wouldn't you? You know what I mean? Give them the opportunity. Because, I mean, you know, any sport, you can find young players who are probably too young to be playing at the top grade, but they give them that opportunity and they become absolute superstars. So if you've got the money, why wouldn't you be investing in someone as promising as young Aish, as I like to call him?
Baby never doing any of this.
Because they don't have the maturity to handle it. You know what I mean?
Right.
If you did, you would get 100. You get 600 grand, mate.
They're not worried about where their meal's coming from on Sunday night because they've got $1 million in the bank and they don't have that grooming. I mean, Peter Sterling always said, greatest halfback by the way in the world, always said if you're good enough, you're old enough. So I get that concept in terms of age and playing in the top grade, but forking out heaps of coin for a kid that can't even go out and drink alcohol yet or can't even vote in his own country. I don't know if that's going to groom. I don't know if that's going to groom a champion. It might not. It's we're not used to it, so we're not sure what's going to happen. But I'd probably invest my money in some. Like what Blake said about the Titans that they're doing at the moment, that's what we've been begging for the Warriors to do over a 5-year plan, is invest money into some back rowers and build clubs around them. So get the good coach, the recruitment policy, but buy players not just to win a premiership next year, but to build over the next 2 or 3 years. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see the Titans in the top 8, not next year, but maybe the year after, because that's how their recruitment policy is. We're kind of just like on a whim at the moment. Let's try and buy a player and see what happens. Oh, hang on, we'll get Cody because he'll replace Sean. That's fine. Hang on, he's not actually replacing Sean. Shit, we paid heaps of money for him. We've got to stick with him. Let's maybe get a back rower. How about we get a coach and a recruitment policy, and then we have a plan over 5 years how we're going to make the finals 4 or 5 years in a row and take it to the premiership. That's the only way to do it if the Warriors want to finish consistently at the top.
I hope the owners are listening. Because it's exactly right. You've got to have a long-term recruitment plan. Melbourne have shown you that. You know, they've just been lucky that they've had the 3 immortals in the spine playing for them. But I just think that Mel Meninga's obviously played a big part up there as the cultural manager or whatever he's called, and it helps that he's the Australian coach because he's obviously said to Fafita, and I guarantee you for the next 10 years while I'm the coach, you'll be in the side. And the real interesting part of this whole Fafita signing was that Gordon Tallis got him to go to, basically, that's the media talk, is that Tallis phoned his mother, spoke to his mother, and basically said that he'd help this kid if he went to Gold Coast. Now you're talking about, so really there's an issue in Brisbane, isn't there?
I was just about to ask, what does this say about the Brisbane Broncos? Because for years, we've spoke for years, they are the team that hasn't had a bad year. They're always in the 8. I can't remember them having a bad year. A lot of teams have, years where they're out of it. But to not sign this kid whenever they want a player, they get a player.
That's right.
So what does this say about the Broncos now? Is it over?
Look, I think this. Geez, I was expecting when the Fafita signing came out that Seabold was gone. I was expecting that. There's obviously something else going on behind the scenes where they can't. You hit the nail on the head. If Brisbane wanted a player, they got him. Players said, which club do you want to go and play for? They'd say Brisbane. You know what I mean? So I think that what they've tried to do, Brisbane, whether this the shifting of Wayne Bennett, the shifting of the culture, just hasn't worked for them. And to lose Dave Fafita is a massive hit that they have to take.
Yep. Yeah. Well, Lavina, I know you wanted to touch on Danny Levi. For Manly. Yeah, I just want to talk about him first before you go on, Rhett, because he was the person that I thought I'd tip Manly to come first this year to be minor premiers because I reckon they've got the best pack, but he was the only one that was going to let me down. I thought he was sort of the link, judge. Sort of the link that was going to hold them back. But obviously, he's proven me wrong.
Yeah, I'm not just talking about Danny Levi because he scored the same try against Parramatta as what he did at the weekend as well. So that little dummy half dash, which is always, I've always been a bit wary of because you don't want him to be a hummo and always go for the try. But he's been timing that perfectly, and they won the game against Parramatta because of that try, and also again at the weekend. So the dash is fine, but I think I know what you're talking about, Blake. When I looked at that pack from Manly at the start of the season, he wasn't sort of the player that I was thinking, would be able to take them to the minor premiership. And in our first couple of episodes, Tony talked about how important with the new rules that the number 9s are going to be throughout this season. And every team that's playing well has had a number 9 that stood up above anyone else and is really, nullifying the opposition. And that's why I think they have consistency and keep on winning. What I'm liking about Levi at the moment is probably his distribution more than anything. He's really improved his passing game, and it's been impeccable because he's got the ball on the chest exactly at the right time. And last year he did not have that. Last year he had a good running game and he can tackle. The kid's a really good defender. But I thought his distribution was quite lazy sometimes, and it was almost like he was missing the timing on the passing. And I don't know what he's done in the off-season, but someone's had a word with him and said, let's get fitter and let's make sure that distribution is on point. I think the transition from Knights to Manly has been fantastic for him, and I think he's playing rugby league like he's in a great place and likes playing for his teammates and his coaches. So I think, if there's test opportunities, he's going to put that hand up again and say, I'm going to be one of the best number 9s in the country. Consider me as well. But it's the fact that he can run, he can tackle, but now his passing is impeccable. And because it's on point, he's just creating so many opportunities for those back rowers. It's really impressive. I like the way he's playing.
So would you pick him at number 9 over a Brandon Smith or...
No, I wouldn't pick him over...
I'd have them both in the same team, though.
But I'd have him in the realm. I'd have him in the picture. At the moment, I think he's playing good enough to put his hand up and be selected for representative football for his country. And he's asking questions, not just of the selectors, but he's keeping the opposition honest. He's making sure that the opposition now thinks, shit, he might run and score a try every time he's within, 3 metres of the line. And if he's not, then he can pass a beautiful, perfect cutout pass or a short ball, no look. What about his short ball, no look pass? It's not looking now and passing the short ball. I like the way he's playing rugby league. He's playing
they got that from the 80s.
From the 80s. What else did they get from the 80s?
Oh, mate, well, they didn't get how to fight. Because there's handbags to the dozen going on out there at the moment. But just a little bit on Danny Levi, it's a really interesting story. The kid went over to Aussie and played in the Herald and Jersey Flegg, and he got cut and came back to New Zealand, came to a couple of camps that we were running. had a fantastic work ethic and has always been an out-and-out hooker, and just worked his butt off to get back in. And then he got obviously picked up by Newcastle. And I thought Newcastle showed a little bit of naivety about letting him go because he's only just maturing as a hooker. So they spent, and this is one of the problems that you have with NRL clubs is that they spend a lot of time developing players, and then you have a change of coach, and the coach decides you're not the type of player I want, and they let him go. And he obviously fell out with Nathan Brown, and found himself on the outer at Newcastle, and Desi Hasler's just picked him up. And of course you're going to go, how lucky has the kid been? So he's got a Newcastle, he's got Mitchell Pearce and Kalen Ponga. So the next team that comes in, he's got Daly Cherry Evans and Tom Trebojevic, you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think on the back of that development of Danny, on the back of the development of Danny Levi and his work ethic that he's had since he was a kid, he is now hitting his potential. And I agree with you. I think he is our best hooker in the comp at the moment. He's in the top teams in the top 8, and of course Brandon Smith isn't playing in that position because of Cameron Smith. But you would have both of them in your team because they both offer up something different out of dummy half.
So you're talking about his development, Harold Matthews, SG Ball. If we had a team in New Zealand that would have a Harold Matthews and SG Ball, do you mean we could get more Danny Levi's?
Me personally, I think we can create our own Harold Matthews SG Ball in New Zealand. I've seen it done before.
Me too. I
don't think we need to go and play in their New South Wales competition, and purely because of the cost. I think that if you took the development money out of the NRL and created a under 16, under 18 competition in New Zealand, you would go back to the old days where all the developing districts would put those kids together to come and compete in a competition. You know, when I played, we had central districts. Yep. So Central Districts played in red jerseys. It was Hawke's Bay, Manawatu and Taranaki.
Who was the best?
We played Central Districts. Wellington played in their black and yellow jerseys. Auckland played obviously in their blue jerseys. Northern Districts was Waikato and Northland. And then we had the Canterbury team that basically took in and Southern Districts. So if you take it like that, you've basically got a Harold Matthews type competition.
So we can pitch it right here. So what, we're going to go 10 weeks?
I don't even think you need 10 weeks.
No,
I think you need 8 weeks. I think you need a one round where you play each other, and then you just play a straight grand final because it is a development grade. So you're just picking those kids out to develop them, and this is my. See, if I was head of recruitment, I'd be in the NRL all the time, and I'd be telling them to keep these buggers out of New Zealand. Let us have a pick of the cream of the crop, and if we miss them, then you can have them. But stop coming in and taking all of our kids. Stop coming in and confusing our community with tracksuits to make sure that they're pushing the best kids. You know, let's talk about Suwali, for instance. Yeah. You know, someone other than an NRL person said, you need to come and have a look at this kid. You know, it's like, that's what I say about Sullivan. He doesn't discover the kids.
Yep.
He gets told to come and have a look at them because Tony Kemp knows that kid can play football. So we need that here in New Zealand. We can create it. We've just got people at the top tier, and I don't mind saying it, they just don't understand how to do it. All right, and all they're worried about is picking up the pay packets and getting through the year on a salary, as opposed to what they're meant to be doing is developing footballers.
And imagine if you had a couple of success stories in your first couple of seasons of holding this local development comp, and kids could see, oh wow, there's a real pathway here. We play for Wellington, or we play for Central, and look, that last year this dude here got signed to the Warriors, and now the Warriors are really starting to build a really strong team. They've got a really strong track record, and all the developments coming from their own backyard. I get it. We don't have to pay overs for those players who we're looking at in Australia.
I'm only talking about my own personal beliefs. I believe every kid in New Zealand should play for the Warriors. All right, I said that to an old recruitment manager for the Warriors when I was creating these New Zealand development camps. And I said, I'll never say it on record, but I think that every kid should have the opportunity to stay home because this is where his family is. Yep. So if he wants to go home on an off weekend, he can go home. I know how hard that was. When I signed for Newcastle, I stayed in the Newcastle home. I was one of the first boys. I was one of the first boys to stay in a family home. It's so hard to go overseas when you're 16, 17 and live there. You know what I mean? So, but what the Warriors are up against is their
checkbook.
Well, there's a checkbook. You can't get them all. You know what I mean? But right at the beginning is that they've got a structure that is not conducive of all of the people around New Zealand wanting to be a part of the Warrior brand. That's why I keep talking about a PR exercise. Do you think that the people on Facebook that follow me, for instance, or follow Blake, and they see stuff, and they love Geoff Toovey, you know what I mean? A lot of my mates love Manly. They remember Manly come to Carlo Park and Newcastle beat them, of course. There was their home game they were meant to lose. I just want to throw that in there.
I don't blame you.
But yeah, they hear that Geoff Toovey, who took Manly to a grand final, didn't hit the criteria and didn't get an interview. Like, what a PR disaster. But it's like disaster after disaster locally, and you're not building this Warrior brand. I just reckon if they handled things a lot better, the Warrior brand could be so much stronger and kids would want to identify with the Warriors. Every junior kid in New Zealand, if you're listening, Mark and Rob, every kid in New Zealand should be carrying a Warriors bag around to school. They're really cheap, with a Warriors raincoat, because our kids need raincoats, they get wet, and a Warriors football. All right? And I'll tell you what, if you started that today, in 5-10 years' time, every kid would want to play for the Warriors, just by doing that simple thing.
On the back of that, you also need the NRL to say, hey, we're going to cut it for the Warriors next year, instead of just letting the Warriors play every game at home next year, which is a really kind gesture. How about we put a ban on scouting and recruiting in Auckland? We're not allowed to send anyone over there to pick players from any club. They're not allowed to come over there for a 5-year period.
That's a smart.
An opportunity.
100%.
Gives the Warriors an opportunity to say, we'll get these kids, we'll get the cream of the crop. Whatever's left over, we'll send your way, and you can decide. But you're not allowed to send a recruitment policy officer or anyone here from another club overseas for 5 years. And then let's see how well they're doing. Because if you look at the teams at the moment in the top 6 of this competition, they're saturated with New Zealand players, saturated with really talented players that we've lost at the age of 14, 15, 16 because they come over with a checkbook.
2 things. I used that conversation. I don't know whose idea it was. It might have been yours, Tony, originally, where you said kick the other teams out of New Zealand in terms of the scouting ball. I used that at the conversation on Saturday night as well. And everyone stopped and went, yeah, that makes sense. That's a really, why wouldn't you do that? Secondly, why would you do that? I mean, like, not why would you do that? Like, have the balls, if you're in that position as CEO of the NZRL or CEO of the Warriors, to go to the NRL together and say, get them out of our country. Do you see me coming into Brisbane? Do you see me coming into West Sydney? Do you see me coming into the Northern Territories to pick your best kids up? I bet you if you did that, I bet you if the Warriors did that, and they've thought about doing that too. I've been parts of those conversations. Man, there'd be some shit going on. You know what I mean? Like they'd be freaking out about that. Even if like Lavina just suggested then, Auckland is the catchment base for the New Zealand Warriors. Or Auckland Warriors, however you want to put it. That's the catchment base. And we know fair well that the high schools around here have already done all the scouting for you. The high schools have already grabbed the cream of the crop, or most of the cream of the crop, and brought them up to the Auckland schools because there's such a high competition when it comes to rugby in the Auckland 1A. So if that's your catchment area, and Auckland it is, you've already got a really good chance of getting the next big thing.
The one thing that's missing from the conversation is that you have to have a development opportunity for that kid to stay here. All right, so the reason why they go is because they go to other clubs and they get put into a Jersey Flegg and a Harold Matthew competition, and that develops them into New South Wales and a Queensland competition that prepares them to be an NRL footballer. What we don't have is we don't have the people that are willing to build grassroots in this country. Okay, that's the number one issue. All right, and until we can do that and retain our kids here in New Zealand through meaningful competitions, and I'm always going to blame money. No, and I can tell you this, and a lot of my friends will tell you this, we never had money when we had those competitions back in the old days. All right, rugby league people will travel to play in games. Okay, it's not about the priority about blaming money should be put on the bottom. Yes, we do need money. I'm not saying that you don't, but what they need is opportunity. They need someone to put together an opportunity and attach the 3 biggies, like I said, Auckland Rugby League, New Zealand Rugby League, and the Warriors, and make the NRL stay away and pick the eyes out of your best players.
I agree with that. That's exactly what we need. Those
Field
3
goal
together. Oh,
okay,
is this
let's
Kempy?
do it then. We'll do it.
Is this you, Kempy?
Kick field goals too back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Jeez, that was 50 out.
Have a look
Still
at it.
Still going up when it went over.
All right. Now let's move on to player of the round, Kempy. One player.
Mate,
Lavina, who you got? I'm going to go Lavina. I'm just warning you.
I got
you
a player.
think. Who you got, Lavina?
I got a player. I'll describe him to you and see if you can pick who I'm talking about.
Luke Keary.
I'm talking about a player. I'm talking about a forward that plays in a
Hetherington.
beautiful colour of gold and blue. Beautiful colour of gold and blue. Who's a prop that can run away from fullbacks and centres
Gillard.
and backs and score.
RCG.
Well done, Blake. Score the runaway try. Was that not a beautiful thing in rugby league when he received that short ball, ran away?
Because he likes running away from defensive lines. He hates taking them on.
He is
Seriously.
my player of the round this week, next week, every goddamn week for that try. I was home alone in my pajamas,
He
having a
drinks
cup
milk.
of tea. Maybe it was a Shiraz, but I jumped up in the air and I thought I'm in the best mood of my life after watching that gorgeous try from
He
that
just like
wonderful
that
player.
moustache.
They were lucky.
Campbell Gillard, mate. He
they-
wins it this week. He wins it this
He
week.
did play good. They were lucky to get away with it against the Tigers, but yeah,
Hey.
neither here
Yeah,
nor there.
leave that out of it. I'm not even gloating about my victory over your victory, all right? I'm not even gloating.
Let's just move
Just
on.
player of the round.
Here you go, Kempy.
I find it really hard to pick a player of the day at the moment because I'm really enjoying just watching the football and I don't like putting labels on blokes. You know, I thought
That is shit.
I
don't
Come
like
on,
putting
mate.
labels
No,
on
look,
blokes.
I don't- not-
You're the king of labels.
said-
not
Someone
the
drinks
not,
milk.
not the best in
Player.
it, not the best in the game. You know, it doesn't take. You know, players is always a good
Player of the
accolade.
day.
No, players the accolade that you want because
Yeah.
then the boys are telling you that you win all right. You know, you don't want to miss out on too many of them. I find it hard to go past Luke Keary. I thought, did a little bit of reading on Luke Keary this week, just to see, what type of kid he is. I just think at 28, the kid. I always got this thing about the age of 28. I think 28 is in rugby league for a halfback is your prime. You know, you've got the right to sit down with your coach and direct what goes on the football field. And I think he's earned that, Luke Keary, in the best team. And on the weekend, if it wasn't for Luke Keary, they would not have got home the Sydney City Roosters. And Robinson, it's no wonder that they've come out this week and they've announced his signing. You know what I mean? So for coming, like we've seen from South, playing that development role, playing hooker, he's had great experience through that middle of the ruck. And to do the things that he does, he's got a little decent kicking game. I love his short kicking game. But the way that he just brings, you're talking about Gold Coast signing a Blake to bring players on. He's got a really good team, don't get me wrong. But he deserves the accolade of being one of the best in the competition because, mate, he also steps up. He's one of those marquee players that I'd sign tomorrow.
Hey, I just wanted to say, before you move on, a quick thing about Luke Keary. My niece gave birth a year and a bit ago in Australia, and I was at a hospital to help her out with the birth. And Luke Keary had just had been in the hospital as well for the birth of his first child, I think it was. And I had a bit of a chat with him. Talked to him about rugby league and, what he was looking at in the future and how happy he was at the Roosters. And he said, it's such a great club and they look after them and the management always call everyone. And 2 days later, he was back in the hospital and he was doing the rounds for anyone in the hospital that was sick or unwell that liked rugby league. And he put it on offer that he would sign autographs and he was talking to these kids for 45 minutes to an hour, every sick kid in the hospital. He wasn't asked to do that by the Roosters. That's the sort of person Luke Keary is. And, he's such a generous player when it comes to being kind to his teammates, but he's also got a kind heart. And I want him to do well this year because he's such a nice guy. To think he'd go around a hospital and look after those kids is awesome.
He's got a sense of humour too because when they're talking about
really funny.
Hetherington and Jared Warrior-Hargraves, he said, I wasn't worried about them. I was looking for Cody.
He is a smart cookie because I did a business course with him. So he sort of knows a lot of ins and outs, knows the business side of things, and a good bloke. And yes, I did do a business course.
And who did you have? Who did you have?
Who do I have? I was a bit too drunk on the weekend to sort of remember too many games, and it's Tuesday now. So
It's the time
just
to
get
do that to you, mate.
yeah, Benji. Hey, I was going to say Benji because he did play some good footy. It's good to see him back. It's the best thing that happened to him getting dropped. And Madge is that coach, and
He's my favourite player.
Oh, at the moment, look at they versed a team that is full strength. Parramatta. I know Madison got injured at the start, but they're going to get players back, and I think they could sneak into that. I hope they do. But Benji's playing some good footy.
Yeah, no, look, Benji. He ain't going to let you down. That's what I mean. Like at 28, Benji's what 34. Like he's been there, mate. He's been around the blocks. He knows that you get dropped. You don't spit and throw your toys out of the cot. I did that at 28. You know what I mean? Like, he's that type of bloke that you want him in your club. You know what I mean? That's why when they dropped him, if I was the Warriors, I would have been straight in there. Yeah. Come home, mate. Come and help us.
No, I don't want Benji. No, Tony. No.
Oh,
I know you love him. I know you got a soft spot for him, but the Warriors don't do Benji. Yeah, he's playing great. He's 34 years of age, and let's hope he sticks it out for the rest of the year. Let's hope.
Who knows? He might go around again the way he's playing.
Oh, is that dog in your handbag?
There he is. I've got a few dogs on the go at the moment. It's all go. They're all agreeing with me. Don't bring back Benji.
Let's finish it off. Game of the round. Now, the Thursday nights have been good this week. Not too impressive. Saints versus Souths.
No, that's not the game of the round.
We've got Tigers, Warriors, Broncos, Sharks on Friday.
What about the Sharks? How good are they going?
Yeah,
Sean Johnson, he's my man lately. And once again, you talk about a play being dropped. You've got Cooper Cronk coming out and saying too much and absolutely blasting him front pages of the media and lead story on NRL 360 saying how he's not running enough with the ball and controlling the game. And next thing you know, he's up there with the Dally M points. So Sean Johnson's playing really good football and he's answering his critics. I like the way he's playing and he's bringing the best out in the Sharks. So it's a good game, that one.
Even though
I like the Tigers Warriors.
Yeah, I'm leaning more towards Manly versus Penrith on a Saturday night. Now, Manly starting to hit form, hopefully get Turbo back. They're at Brookvale and they're versus Penrith, who top of the table.
Yeah,
that's.
I agree. I think Manly Penrith are the game of the round. I think Penrith, they just go. They feel like they're going just sliding under the radar a little bit, because you've got everyone talking about Sydney City and whether Souths can hold on. You know what I mean? And Manly without Turbo, but Penrith are just going along and they're not losing any games, you know what I mean? And they're building momentum. And I think this week Manly Penrith is probably my game of the round. The other ones it'd be hard to pick them. Yeah. It'd be hard to pick the other games.
Except the Knights will probably get flogged against the Storm, wherever that is.
They'll be there.
It's good to lose a couple of blokes this time of the season.
Oh, well, what a great show. Thanks for joining us. We've had Kempy. He's told us what the comp's going to look like, hopefully, in the next 5 years.
The New Zealand comp, let's get it off the ground.
The rugby league world.
Hopefully, Benji goes around a year, it comes back to the Warriors. All sorts of things. But thanks for joining us, Lavina, Kempy, myself, Mark over there, a couple of comments. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
All right, let's catch you guys up next week.